Give me a stage and I'll dance or sing. As an entrepreneur, you're responsible all the time. And sometimes it's difficult to say, okay, this is a weekend that I will not work. In fitness, weekends are the money-making hours. Once you make the decision that there's no plan B, there's no turning back, this is going to work or this is going to work. Your morning routine, it's going to make or break you. An entrepreneur is someone who has a vision, who wants to execute it, takes enormous risk in doing it. Everything that we want to be transparent, traceable, is going to be on the blockchain. I had tried all the hats. The UAE is probably my favorite country in the entire world. Smart work is knowing when to hold off, and then sort of luck is just the cherry on cake. Vocalists would be working on their vocals, not just singing. I think a writer should be working with their words. If you're not comfortable in the position that you're in, maybe you need help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I'm learning.
I am your host, Gaurav Garg, and we welcome all our viewers to our show, Amazing Mentor. Today with us is Miss Lotta. She is a content and copywriter, NFTs and blockchain since 2018, a story with words Lioness, and an entrepreneur. She is co-founder of VESA Digital. It's a pleasure to welcome Miss Lotta to our show, Amazing Mentor. Welcome, Lotta.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. Thank you so much for Believe in Future podcast and inviting me. This is really exciting. I don't normally get to do this sort of thing. This is usually VESA's corner, but I'm really excited to be here today.
My pleasure. So, we will start from the childhood. Tell us about your childhood and any particular childhood memory that you would like to share on our show.
I had a great childhood. I really did. I grew up in Finland. And my mom, she was amazing in bringing myself up and my three other siblings as well. And if I think about my childhood, I just remember going around in the forests, having completely free reign, going to the stables, walking my dogs for like 8 hours straight. And of course, being from Finland, I had a mobile phone. From a very early age. So that was really helpful because my mum would call me like, okay, you've been out for like 9 hours. Do you want to come in for some food or you good? So that was just priceless,
So what about your educational background in schooling and higher education?
I went obviously through elementary, upper secondary, and what's called in Finland, it's called lukio. I think it would be called high school in the American system, I believe. And then I went to university, Helsinki University. Obviously was working alongside with that. Yeah.
So as a child, what was your dream that I would like to become or of this profession when I grow up?
You're going to laugh so much when you hear this. I wanted for the longest time, so there's a tiny little village in Finland, is northern part of Finland called Kannus. So my dream was that I would go to Kannus and I would become a dog trainer. Right? There's an educational program that teaches people how to become dog behaviorist trainers. And that was my dream for a really long time because I was absolutely obsessed with dogs. Like still to this day, crack open a dog book and I will know all of the breeds. Like it's a little silly. And I remember telling this story to my dad. I must have been elementary school age, so under 10 or something like that. And he said, and I think it's a really good advice. He said that, yeah, you can become a dog trainer, but you just need to be the best dog trainer because there aren't many around that are making a good living. So that was a really good advice, actually, that, that's very entrepreneurial. Even though our household necessarily wasn't very entrepreneurial, my parents were in the same job with the same employer for all their career. But that was like, if you want to do something very rare, you just need to be the best at it and you'll be fine.
So when did the idea from a dog trainer shifted to an instructor field?
A lot of my life story, you'll see this story arc where it's quite often it's like there's a catalyst or there's a challenge or there's a fork in the road and that sort of breaks up the pattern and that sends me into another direction. And I'm a religious person myself. I go to the Hare Krishna temple actually, so that's my spiritual path and I believe that that's how Krishna always has been redirecting me in my life, and that's one of those moments. In my late teens, I was having a really hard time. I actually fell ill with anorexia. That sent me into a trajectory where I thought, okay, well, this isn't a career. I'm putting so much effort into this illness, and obviously at that point I wanted to get better, but I can't put this on my CV. What do I have to show for it? And so I thought, maybe if I just get really healthy, that's a career, right? And so I started looking into, what if I became a fitness instructor? What if I became someone who actually showed people that there's a better way, that you can take care of your body, you can become strong, and specifically to become strong was my main objective at that point. That was where it shifted, that becoming healthy became my goal.
So how was you as a child, introvert or extrovert child?
Yeah, I think as a child, I was a lot more extroverted than I am now. I'm definitely introverted now. I need downtime after I'm with people. I think everyone's a bit of a mix, and different parts of themselves surface with different people and different circumstances. But as a child, I was very extroverted. Give me a stage and I'll dance or sing. I loved to perform. I had very good confidence and all of that.
So what about your college life? Any particular incidents from your college life that you would like to share?
I have very fond memories of my university time. I had a very mixed crew. I was very lucky in that sense that in my very inner circle, I had someone who was almost in their 50s, someone who was in my age, and everything in between. So we had a very, very mixed crew. But I think one of the best memories that I have was that throughout my schooling, actually, me and my friends, we would just end up making these inside jokes. And somehow, maybe that's the writer in me, somehow I always ended up being the script writer. Like, people would come to me for the ideas, like, okay, Lotta, you need to script it and then we'll film it. Like, that's so YouTube nowadays, but we were ahead of the curve, but we just did it for the fun of it, for ourselves. So some of those funny scripts that I'm thinking, that was the best.
So any of the funny script you would like to share?
Well, most of them can't really bear the light of day, let's put it that way. But, we'd make fun of our teachers. Someone would have, one of our professors or teachers would have, a funny quirk when they would talk, and we would, make sketches of that. Or, something that I remember there was one script, my friend was wearing a mop on their head, and they were trying to get on the bus, and they were like, oh, I'm sorry, is it going to the center? And they couldn't see anything because the mop was on their head. It's just, silly things like that, but we had so much fun filming them.
So what about your hobbies and interests?
Fitness and health is still a huge part of my life. So I'm a certified Yoga Alliance yoga teacher. So yoga is still huge for me. Health in general, alternative medicine, biohacking, this sort of thing. Very, very interested. Herbal medicine, acupuncture, all these sort of alternative things that have been actually very crucial for me along my path as well. So that's probably my number one hobby, because currently that's all I have the time for. I schedule my workouts and I really take care of my health. But other than that, I don't have hobbies. We always joke with VESA that our hobby is just work.
So who was your inspiration in your early childhood?
As a child, I would look up to people that I thought were not boring, right? So I always felt that's the weirdest thing about growing up, that you need to become so neutral, that you can't get obsessed anymore. And so whenever I would see someone who was really, really obsessed with something that they were doing, whether it's making wicker chairs or being an actor or whatever it was, if they were obsessed with their craft, I would always respect that so much. And the main thing that I was worried about was to become a boring adult that would just stay neutral, stay calm, cool, and collected at all times. That's nothing that I wanted.
So where did you started your professional journey from?
Yeah, I must have been 18 when I started. That's when I got my first job, and I actually stayed with the same employer for a very long time. So I became a fitness instructor with Elixir. Elixir is the number one, it's the biggest health and fitness chain in all of the Nordics, not just in Finland. So I was very lucky in that sense. And I had a very clear goal that Elixir was the brand that I wanted to work with because they were so established and they had so much reach.
So what was your first task and first take-home salary when you started your career?
My first task, I taught group fitness. So I got a hold of, I think, 4 weekly classes was my very first when I first started. And I thought, oh, that's a lot. And I'm telling you, like over the years, I've taught 20 plus classes a week, plus managing on top. But when you start being in front of people and being responsible for people, it's really taxing. So that 4 hours a week for me, it felt like a lot. It was good money in a sense that I could go to university and I could do this job and I didn't have to take out a student loan. So for me, that's a win-win. I could make do with the little bit of money that we get from the government in Finland. So I was happy with that.
So what were your initial days challenges and how did you overcome those challenges?
So when I first started instructing, I kind of went into it very naively, I think I would say. I would just run off the energy that I had as a child. Like I said, I was a very extroverted child and people always had a very good reaction to me. I was friendly and everyone welcomed me. But then I think a year and a half, 2 years into instructing, that's when it really hit me that, my goodness, there's 40 people in here. They're all moving at the same time. I'm responsible for them. Everything that can happen, I'd seen some things, someone fainting in class, someone having a heart attack. Things happen when you teach fitness, actually. And so maybe about 2 years into it, that's when I started getting really, really nervous. And I would have the worst nerves before going to my job. And that was horrible. I went through a real phase of thinking, can I actually continue doing this? Because it's such a struggle for me to muster the courage to do it, and always running through my head what can happen this time and how can I best be prepared. And you can't always prepare for the things that can happen. So that was a real challenge. And I remember talking about this with my mum. What can I do? Like, I'm on the verge of having panic attacks of going to work. I didn't see how I could pull that one off, but I did.
So how was your transition from an employee to an entrepreneurship journey?
This is where we get to the most influential person of my entire life. My husband, VESA, is an OG digital artist, amazing, creative, lifelong artistic contribution, and obviously is very well known in the crypto, blockchain, NFT space. Everything changed when I met him. I fell in love the moment I saw him. Very, very strong, and it's been going ever since. But he had that entrepreneurial spark, and he would always say, even when I was still working as a fitness instructor, he would always push me that you should think about your personal brand. You should think about how you could capture or monetize your clients, because when you're a fitness instructor for a brand, you don't own that data, right? You can't even collect people's emails because the company owns that. And so that's when the spark was kind of put in my head when we first met, that there's another way, there's the entrepreneurial way. And slowly but surely it became my dream that what if I worked actually in VESA's business? What if it grew so much that I could work with him and we could have employees? Like, that to me sounded just incredible. There's a lot of challenges. We're here now, we're living it.
So when you started your entrepreneurship journey, in the initial days, did you miss your monthly paycheck?
I think everyone does who jumps on an entrepreneurial journey, but I think it's more than that. It's the pay is just a symptom of it, isn't it? What I missed more was the allowance to switch off. As an entrepreneur, you're responsible all the time. And sometimes it's difficult to say, okay, this is a weekend that I will not work. But if you were working for someone else, you wouldn't question it. You wouldn't think about it twice. You'd say, great, Friday night, let's switch off. Although in fitness, weekends are the money-making hours. That's when we work the most. I think that's what I missed more.
So what is the most important part of your entrepreneurship journey?
I think it was just the decision. That's what I would say. Once you make the decision that there's no plan B, there's no turning back, this is going to work or this is going to work. I think that's the most important part, when there was no being 1 foot here and 1 foot there, and that's the most important part.
So what were your initial days challenges when you started your entrepreneurship journey?
I think that what I mentioned already, that sort of being responsible for yourself and knowing how to manage your time, because suddenly no one is managing it for you. And I would say to anyone who's thinking about getting on an entrepreneurial journey, I would say look at your processes and systems now, because they are going to be tested. Your morning routine, it's going to make or break you. So that definitely was the initial challenge, how to manage yourself. And it sounds so simple, but actually it's not. So how do you do that? And then on the other end, how do you almost like parent yourself? How do you say, okay, that's enough. You clearly need rest. You need to break this energy. You need to dip in the pool, or you need to take a walk right now. Like, how do you manage yourself as someone who's a very good well-wisher would? That's the initial challenge that I had, but I'm learning.
So how difficult or easy was it to convince your first client in your entrepreneurship journey?
I remember when VESA first got into the NFT crypto scene, we were living in London in not so nice conditions, let's put it this way. We were putting all of our effort into his career actually taking off. I had no doubts that it would, but it would be just a matter of time, and sometimes I would wonder how long it would take, because it was really tough. And then I remember that one day he said that, okay, we're talking now with this hedge fund about them possibly getting an artwork from me. And it was one of those very early crypto art. We're not even talking NFTs, we're talking crypto art pieces. And that would then allow us to travel to America, to go to Las Vegas, to exhibit there, to meet the people. And that would eventually become the butterfly effect that would lead us into the point that we are in today. And I remember going like, okay, fingers crossed, let's hope that they really get this piece, because it was crucial for us to be able to travel. But then again, he had an international art career beforehand, so it wasn't so much convincing, it was more, here is the expression, how could we storify, how could we incorporate your logo, how could we make it a real partnership? And that was, the rest is history, really.
Best of luck. So, what are the major differences you feel in an employed and entrepreneurship career?
The mindset, for sure. The mindset is the biggest difference. Like I said, when you're employed, you think a lot about how can I live up to the standards that are being expected of me? How can I represent the brand really well? How can I be proactive, coming up with solutions maybe, but always thinking what is allowed, what is in line with this brand. Whereas as an entrepreneur, there's none of that. There's no barriers in terms of what you can do, but you are 100% responsible for everything. And like I said, no one is managing your time or your effort or your energy or your mental health or anything else. That's the biggest difference, that there's you thinking about someone else or someone else's product, and you thinking about just your own effort, and how's that gonna line up with what you want.
So was there any incidents or time period when you thought to roll back to an employed journey?
Yeah, for sure. But then, like I said, the decision is the most important thing. And once you've made that, you find a way. And I'm so incredibly lucky that I've had the example from my husband, that one thing that I've learned from him over and over again is to work every single situation, every single partnership to its maximum, to see every single situation to its optimal degree. So whether it's a person or a company or a business or an opportunity to be on stage, what's the most that you can make out of that situation, and nurture those relationships so that they become actual good working relationships that last for years and years. That's something that I admire in him so much, that I keep on seeing him doing, and now I'm starting to learn to do that as well.
So what is your definition of an entrepreneur?
An entrepreneur is someone who has a vision, who wants to execute it, takes enormous risk in doing it, and has to educate themselves as they go.
So you have played many roles. You were an instructor, you are a voice actress, entrepreneur, copywriter. Which of the one you like the most and why?
I'm a writer through and through. I wrote my first novel when I was 13, and that was fiction, that was prose, that was 100% creative writing, and I've written ever since. And then it's just molded into this commercial writing, content writing, copywriting, but that's who I am. That's definitely my artistry, is my writing, and that's something that I take great pride in. So I'm always happy when I get to write something and show someone that, hey, this is what an article of you could look like, or this is what a slogan for your business could look like, or this is the name of your business. I love that moment when they go, wow, I couldn't have thought that myself. And I'm like, yeah, that's why we're here. So maybe that's my favorite part, working with words and being a wordsmith and story with words and all of that good stuff. But then I do really, really enjoy the business side of it, the entrepreneurial side of it. Like I said, nurturing the relationships that we have and the social aspect of it, the networking part of it. Now I'm really starting to enjoy that as well.
So was choosing creative writing by accident or by choice?
Wow. By choice or by accident? I actually started writing. I remember this specifically. I started writing. This is going to sound so silly. I started writing because one of my friends who lived very close to my childhood home, she started writing. She showed me this thing called a Word document, right? And she was so excited of it. Like, she was like, I'm writing a book. Look at me, I'm writing a book. And I thought, I can do it better. Because I knew that I had all these stories in my mind, and I would always see stories wherever I went. And when I would go, I said that I walked in forests a lot. I would always talk to myself and come up with stories. So I thought, that's great, I can write them down so that I don't forget them. And that's how I started writing. And I must have been like no more than maybe 10 years old at that stage. And like I said, I wrote my first over 100-page novel at 13.
Was that novel published?
No, it was not. No, and I'm very happy it wasn't. All of my texts up until my adulthood were in Finnish, and that's when I started writing in English. I consider myself completely bilingual because all of my schooling has been in English. So even before then, my daycare, when I was 3, I had native English speakers there, which is another just amazing gift that my parents gave me. That's one thing. If you have young children, expose them to someone who's a native speaker of English, because that's a great gift. That's such a good tool that you can't actually learn to that level. You can't learn it afterwards. You have to learn it when you're very young.
So how would you define blockchain, and what is the future of blockchain according to you?
So I think the future of blockchain this is almost like a question of early 90s. What do you think about this internet thing? Right? I think it's a new thing. I think it's the next thing of where we're going. I think that's how we are going to gain trust in each other, in our businesses, in our organizations. I think that's how we're going to prove transparency, ownership, also owning our data. That's going to be huge. So everything that we want to be transparent, traceable, is going to be on the blockchain. Think about medical peer review processing, or you donate to charity and you want to see where the money is going. That could be used, the blockchain technology could be used in that. I think it will be implemented in so many things. And then use cases of like the metaverse, and then NFTs obviously will live in the metaverse and all of that. And the blockchain technology is sort of this underlying thing. It's almost like the chessboard, and then what we're actually using are the chess pieces. So I'm hoping that in the future, we won't even think that we're using blockchain technology. It's just, you don't need to understand how the internet works really, but you use it because the user face is so user friendly. So I think that's where it's evolving into. That's where we're definitely going, and I'm really excited about that.
So what was the thought process behind starting VESA Digital?
The thought process was, and I'm going to be very honest with this because VESA is very honest with this process as well. He's an absolute artistic genius, and I don't use that word lightly. He thinks in ways that I've seen no one else think, and how he creates visual landscapes and worlds and opens up these portals. It's unparalleled. But he's not a CEO, right? I'm not a CEO. We're founders. I support him in his great endeavor. But it was all about, a huge part of the entrepreneurial journey is realizing your own limitations. So we realized that we needed people around us. We needed a CEO. We needed business development. We needed marketing. And that's how VESA Digital, the company, was born, that we needed actually to relinquish some of that control so that we could do what we're best, especially for VESA, so that he can become an artist again. Because for the longest time, for years and years, he would be everything. He would wear all of the hats. And then I would sort of like try to juggle everything that he couldn't cope with anymore. And when it's just the two of you, it's so intense. So that's where it came from, like realizing our own limitations.
So what are your roles and responsibilities as co-founder VESA Digital?
My role is very much, as it always was, it's supporting whatever VESA is doing. It's tying up a lot of loose ends. It's day-to-day managing. But then, of course, because I have this background in writing and I've been doing writing a lot, I do put a lot of emphasis and effort into whatever content we put out, that it's in line with our brand tone. So I do write a lot, but it's a lot of supporting, managing, creating ideas, and also being in contact with our partners or things like that. Yeah.
So what all are these services and products which VESA Digital provides?
So what we're really excited about at the minute is this concept of Renaissance 360, which means that art really doesn't have to be a square on your wall anymore, that we're busting out the art from its narrow frame into everything. Everything is a canvas, So currently we're really excited about putting art on cars. We have the sole exclusive right to do full-blown art cars in Dubai, street legal art cars, which is just the most incredible thing. But in addition to that, putting art and printing art on jets and yachts and on marble into interiors, that's something that we're very, very excited about.
So how has been your journey till date from an instructor to an entrepreneur?
This is where I'm going to talk about, without a doubt, the most challenging aspect of my journey. And what really I talked about earlier, how always in my life there's been a catalyst, there's been a breaking point of some sort, that's always led me into the direction that I am in currently, or where I should be. And my biggest moments of things like that happened a little over a year ago when we lost our son. And that just absolutely changed everything. I am not the same person anymore. As everyone who's ever lost a child would know, that you cease to be the person that you were before. There's a time before and there's a time after. So I knew that I wanted to pivot away from fitness. Like I said, I had been doing it for 13 years and I had tried all the hats. I've been an athlete, I've been in management, I've been an instructor, I've been a personal trainer, I've run my own business in fitness, I've done choreography for other people. So everything that I wanted to try in fitness, I had already tried. So I knew that I eventually wanted to jump out completely and just work with VESA, just work with writing. Obviously, I had been doing that alongside, but I just couldn't see how that would come about. And as it happens, after we lost our son, I thought, I can't go back. I can't go back to teaching fitness anymore. That's it for me. I taught my last class still with him. So that was a change that I just thought, I've been looking for this change, and now there's no return. I might as well take it. And that's what I did.
So what do you miss about Finland in UAE?
I miss the people for sure. It's so funny because the UAE is probably my favorite country in the entire world. I've traveled quite a bit. I've lived in Australia, I lived in London, I lived in Finland, and traveled in America and Europe, and UAE is definitely my favorite country. So there's not a whole lot that I miss from Finland, and I don't want that to come across as arrogant or ungrateful or anything like that. I miss my friends a little bit, I miss my family a lot, but there's not a lot out of the country itself that I miss. It's like funny little things, like sometimes I miss that it's illegal in Finland to drive without your headlights on, like when it's dark and you see people driving in Dubai without lights and they just appear out of nowhere and you go like, whoa, that wouldn't fly in Finland. It's funny little things like that, but other than the people, it's not a whole lot.
So what culture differences do you feel in the countries you have worked in the past?
There's obviously big differences. And if we talk about the entrepreneurial aspect, I think the differences become very obvious. So I feel that, for example, when we moved to London, in my mind, I had imagined that London would be this great metropolitan, very progressive, very hip place. And maybe to a certain extent it was, but it surprised me in how conservative London is and how much of the sort of old school establishment culture there is, which is great, because I actually think that countries and peoples, they should preserve their culture. But it just took me by surprise of what a difference it was. So I think in terms of entrepreneurship, there's nothing I've seen so far that would be as good as the UAE, as Dubai.
So what's that one thing you love about your professional journey the most?
I love the freedom the most, absolutely. The fact that we can choose where we live, we can set our own hours, even though, like I said, it's not always easy, but we do have the freedom to do that. And when it boils down to it, we get to do something that we find is valuable. And isn't that the greatest luxury? That you get to actually contribute to something that you think is meaningful, that you get to create these worlds for people. And when we drive these art cars, for example, and we see kids with just like eyes wide open that they want to touch the car because it looks so cool and something new opened in their mind that wasn't there before. Isn't that valuable? So I think that's the greatest luxury, and I enjoy that the most, that we get to tap into something that is bigger than us. It's more than our everyday mundane struggles.
So who is your mentor in your professional journey?
Oh, it comes as no surprise that my husband is absolutely my mentor. I've learned most everything from him, and I take great leadership from him as well. But then there's lots and lots of incredible people in the space that have taken me under their wing. Dr. Jane Thomason, for example, incredible speaker, author in the space, especially in terms of sustainability. She talks a lot about ethics and sustainability in the crypto space, and she's a very needed voice for this topic. And she is absolutely, if you haven't had the privilege of meeting her or hearing her speak, I highly recommend it, and I aspire to be someone like that, as well as Mariam Al-Zarouni, who is the wife of Dr. Marwan Al-Zarouni. She has been working with the Emirati Mars program, and she's an educator, but she's also a mother. And I think what she does it so elegantly and effortlessly.
So how would you define success, and what is the role of hard work, smart work, and luck in achieving success?
That's a great question, and I think I read a little bit about your how you think about hard work. That it's very, very crucial. And I also think that, but I think they sort of blend together, don't they? Hard work means that you have tenacity, that you keep on doing the same thing over and over again because you believe that that's what you're supposed to do and what will give you the results. And then smart work is knowing when to hold off And then sort of luck is just the cherry on cake. That's just the icing of it. And luck, I think it's a Muhammad Ali quote, isn't it? That the harder I work, the luckier I got. I absolutely believe that. You know, luck doesn't just appear. It's the 10%. And if you don't show up for the other 90%, you won't get that. So you need to have the tenacity to show up so that the luck has the opportunity to present itself to you. So that's how I think about it, that you have to make yourself lucky.
So if you get hold of time machine, would you like to roll back, and in which phase would you like to roll back?
Yeah, sure. For a little bit, I'd like to roll back to my childhood days of like rolling around in the forests and things like that. But I truly think that I am living my best life right now, and it's only getting better. So I can't wait what the future holds, and I wouldn't want to live in the past for too long.
So what does leadership means to you, and how would you define the quality of a good leader?
I think I wrote this somewhere sometime, that leadership, I think it's in a wolf pack, that the leader is actually, it's not in the front, it's behind, because it knows that the most vulnerable individuals of that tribe will be left at the bottom of the pack, and also from behind, the leader can see the entire pack at once and see all the threats that are coming towards it, because the leader is responsible, right? So I think that's what it is, taking the most amount of responsibility and always thinking about how they can best serve their team. So for example, as founders, we always have to think, okay, this vision is precious to us, but how can we empower our team to thrive in their position so that everything comes together? And we really need to be at the back of the pack so that we can see forward and we can make those decisions on a very quick time frame.
So what advice would you like to give to young content writers?
I would say, think about yourself less as a marketeer and more as an artist. I know that sounds a little scary because everyone tells you that there's no future in art, or, you know, it's so unsustainable or unpredictable. It is, but so is everything worth doing. So I would say that get a hold of your craft, really become a wordsmith, do the old school stuff, you know, like do word lists. Someone says the word luxury and you have to come up with like 20 synonyms for it. You know, get a hold of your instrument. Just like a musician would be doing scales or basic things, or a vocalist would be working on their vocals, not just singing. I think a writer should be working with their words, coming up with little poems or little flash poetry or prose or something to get those creative juices going. Because I think creativity is the asset. You don't need to be, I hear all the time people saying, oh, you need to have a niche. You do niche, you know? And I go like, no, actually, you need to be a good writer. That's what you need to do. So you don't need to be, okay, I'm a DeFi writer. Yeah, but if you can write about staking and yield farming, that's great, but you're very limited. So get a hold of your instrument, know how to write about a ton of things. And then if you technically don't know a lot about something that someone commissions you to write about, there's nothing that a little Google searching wouldn't, you know, help you with that. So know how to source information, get a hold of your craft and be an artist, and then get to work.
So what are do's and don'ts you should remember while starting your entrepreneurship journey?
I wish I could take my own advice, maybe. It's very, very easy to sit here and ponder. You just have to do it, isn't it? Right? But I would say, do realize your own limitations, like I said earlier, how VESA Digital came to being. Know if you're not comfortable in the position that you're in, maybe you need help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Everything is doable. Everything is doable. Start looking into it a little bit. Start by a Google search. Start by looking at some tutorials. Someone has done it. What you want to do, someone has done it. Why not? Why do you have to figure out everything by yourself? You don't. So as long as you stay open, you stay resourceful, you see that I've got this great invention of the internet. Like, how cool is that? You know, like our grandparents, our great grandparents, they would have been so excited to have this opportunity to have this sort of network in the palm of their hands 24/7, where they could run entire businesses off of something that isn't brick and mortar. I mean, that's just, we'd be fools not to take advantage of that. So I'd say take full ownership of this internet thing and run with it.
So what would you like to say to young graduates who are just entering their professional life?
I would say, regardless of if you are employed or if you think that you're not entrepreneurial, I would encourage you to think like an entrepreneur. I would encourage you to think how you can at least have a little bit of ownership, a little bit of authority of, for example, clients, partnerships, colleagues. Always network, always stay open to people within your, professional vicinity. That regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur or employed, I think you should think of yourself as a personal brand, because you never know what the next stage of your adventure could be, and maybe you already built some of that foundation for it because you have that network already there. So that's definitely something that I would advise young people to think about, and then also not to be so afraid to change. I'm a perfect example. I'm 32 now. I'm a perfect example of someone who thinks that they have a lot more time than a lot of people maybe do. We have this idea that you need to have it all together by the time you're 25 or by the time you're 30 or something like that. I feel young. I have time. And because of the internet, there's no 40-year-old athletes, but there's plenty of 8-year-old entrepreneurs who've got time.
So what advice would you like to give to instructors? How can they rid of their phobia?
Oh, good one. I would say that first of all, go back to the basics. So be absolutely prepared that there is no winging it when it comes to instruction, unless you're 10 plus years in, you've taught in every single imaginable situation. That was the time when if something happened, the music didn't work, or something else was going on, that's when I could on the spot come up with a choreography or a 30-minute program. But don't try it in the beginning. Be as prepared as you possibly can. Have a backup of a backup of a backup. Be on time. Be very organized. Take care of your body, because your physical requirements will be really, really high. So your nutrition will be super important. So treat your job as an athlete, because it is. If you are teaching fitness, it absolutely is. And then build that personal brand, like I said. Think about how you could capture some of your audience. Could you make extra content here and there? What else could you do leveraging off that knowledge? And also because you've put a lot of time and money and effort into getting your certification. Like I said, that VESA has taught me to always leverage every single situation to the nth degree. How can you leverage your certification beyond teaching your local gym class?
So now we'll start a rapid round.
Ooh, exciting.
Your favorite destination?
Dubai.
Luck, hard work or smart work? Choose anyone.
Smart work.
Success in one line?
The ability to work with anybody.
Employed on an entrepreneurship journey?
Entrepreneurship.
Your favorite adventure?
My favorite adventure is right now.
Your favorite actor and actress?
I really like Natalie Portman. I like Johnny Depp. I think they've done some interesting, good roles.
Your favorite color?
White.
Instructor, copywriter, actor or entrepreneur?
I'd say entrepreneur, because that doesn't limit me to any one thing.
Favorite country apart from UAE?
Italy.
So at last, one line that defines you.
Someone that has taken those catalyst moments in their life and always found a way to pivot, redirect, and go towards what they want.
Thank you very much for your precious time and sharing the advices for our upcoming or the new people who are going to start their professional journey. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for interviewing me. This was real fun.
My pleasure.